Hey everybody, um, just hopping on. I wanted to follow up on a thought that I started last week. Hey Valerie, I'm so glad you're here. So last Friday, I think, Thursday or Friday maybe, I scoped about, hi Kira. Yay, I'm so glad you're here. I scoped last week about insincere apologies and how to help children work through apologizing and that kind of thing. And so I wanted to hop back on and talk about that a little bit. Let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Lynna Sutherland. I'm homeschooling mama to 7 kids. 4 of those are, quote unquote, school aged right now. And I blog over at homeschoolingwithoutthetrainingwheels.blogspot.com. So you can find me there. Also, I've got a page on Facebook that's the same name. It's just HSWO Training Wheels on Facebook. And then, replay, and it'll be on YouTube after that. So, anyway, so one of the reasons I mentioned that, let me flip the camera around so I can stop doing this wobbly thing. Oh, there's my budget. Yay. And my messy schoolroom. Okay, there we go. See, real moms, real mess. Okay, so one of the reasons I wanted to mention the Facebook page is because I've been wanting to get to use Facebook Live more too. But it's kind of quiet over there right now, and I don't know if that's just because I haven't used that as much, or if it's something inherent to Facebook Live and how that's set up. I don't know. It just feels kind of lonely over there. So here's what I've been thinking about. I've been thinking about hopping on there in the mornings, and by morning I mean sometime between, hey Melissa, sometime between when I wake up and when the kids have lunch. To me, that's morning, and that's as scheduled as our day gets. Like, it happens in the morning or it happens in the afternoon, and I just cannot promise to be any more regular than that. But anyway, thinking about hopping on in the mornings to my Facebook page and just doing a very quick, 3-minute Facebook Live about, just a little thought, like a mommy thought. Something not even necessarily homeschool related, but just a mommy thought for the day. And also because the thing I like about Facebook Live, at least, is that once you've posted your video, then it's there and people can comment on it. So that, I feel like the only way I'm probably ever going to be able to give a 3-minute scope or a 3-minute broadcast is if I do it without people commenting, because I never can stay on track long enough. I mean, I love the comments, and that's why I'm here on Periscope, because I love the interaction. But I'm so bad about getting off on rabbit trails and everything. So maybe if I get on Facebook Live, then I can hop on, say a little bit, and get off, and then people can discuss it all day long, and I can hop in, when I have a minute and, respond or join in the conversation or whatever. So, if you're not already following my Facebook page, you can find it at facebook.com/HSWO Training Wheels. And you'll want to like the page, and then you'll also want to make sure notifications are turned on. And so I'm going to try to start tomorrow morning by talking about the word should and when we use that and what it can tell us about what we're thinking about ourselves and our kids. So if I manage to... Okay, so yeah, I'm not sure, because it seems like with some Facebook pages, you can actually, when you click on the little down arrow next to the like button, and you can check off all these things. Some pages, I think maybe verified pages, you can actually choose notify me when this person is live. And I've also noticed that on some people's Facebook Live videos, on my phone, I can, there's a button in the upper right-hand corner where I can click and say that I'm subscribed. Now, I don't seem to get different notifications. I mean, I get notifications on my phone, but just the same way that I would get other, yeah, it hasn't shown up for me yet either. Well, that's the other thing is that I'm only seeing my page as as myself. So I'm not sure what it would look like if I wasn't myself, if I was somebody else looking at my page. But anyway, so I don't know. I'm not quite sure how to do that yet. But that's okay because these videos are going to be like really brief and it's not really necessary that there be live interaction. So you can catch them whenever. Although live is fun. But to me, the live interaction is way better on Periscope than on Facebook Live. So anyway. Okay, so what I was hoping to talk about tonight is this. I got on, I think, last Thursday or Friday, and I talked about should we make our children apologize? And so one of the things I've been thinking about over the weekend is, and that video is on my YouTube channel now. So if you want to go, review that, you can. But was talking also about, what if they have an insincere apology, or how do you know if they're ready to apologize? And so what I wanted to talk about tonight is just one example. I mean, obviously, kids are people too. They're complicated. Their thoughts are complicated. There's a lot that goes on. Yeah, your homeschool page, your Facebook page for your blog, or is that what you meant? The Soaring Arrows page. There's a lot that goes on in a kid's mind and heart, and so, it's not just a simple, algorithm or flowchart to figure out what's going on with them. So what I wanted to do tonight was just to talk about one example of what an insincere apology might look like, or maybe even perhaps we could call it an incomplete apology, and to help you think about how you might work through that with your kiddos. And then, this is just one example. Hey, Becky. It could have multiple different outworkings, but just to give an example that you could work off of. Okay, so one type of apology that you might see with your kids would be something like this. Well, I'm sorry that I hit you, but you took my car. And so, what we're seeing there is they're recognizing that they shouldn't have hit, but by the end of the apology, the child who's been hit somehow is now to blame. So, it's almost like, well, I'm sorry, but really it wasn't my fault. It was your fault, right? The but. Okay. So, you hear that, and as a mom, you instinctually think, oh, that wasn't right. That wasn't a good apology. That shouldn't have been done that way. And, and we might have some ideas about what to say to the child, like, well, you shouldn't apologize that way, or don't say but, or don't, this is the rule. This is the format you need to follow. Follow this format. Don't add other things or whatever. And again, not to say that we shouldn't help our children to have a format for a good way to apologize or something like that. But what's really helpful is to dig a little deeper with your child and to think about what's underneath that. So, yes, right, to get back to the heart, right? So again, a format or a framework can help them to express what's in their heart, but it's not going to change what's in their heart. And so sometimes when you have a format in place and they don't follow that format, that can just be a little clue to you. Something's going on here. We need to look a little deeper. We need to figure out what's going on. So here's one thing that might be underneath the apology with the but, okay? And it's fear. And we can all relate to this. It's the fear that what if I apologize and then what that person did won't be dealt with, right? So, he took my car, then I hit him. If I apologize, then it'll be like he won. He gets to have the car even though he wrongly took it from me. He's going to get away with it. And I'm going to be the one who's wrong and he's going to win. So there's fear there. There's fear that, you'll be wronged and you won't have any way to address your grievance. And, many, many, many times the best way to know how to help your child to work through an issue like that, is to put yourself in their place, to think about from your perspective, okay? And so let me give you an example about what this same thing might look like with you as a mama. So, yes, it's about justice, which is not a bad thing to want, right? It's not bad to want justice. It's not bad to desire to be protected from people doing wrong things to you. That's not a bad thing to want. So let's look at the mom example for a minute. So how many times have you said something like this as a mom? Okay, guys, look, I'm really sorry that I got angry and I was yelling. That wasn't right, but you guys were moving so slowly. You were not getting ready quickly, okay? So by the end of that phrase, your kids haven't really heard, Mommy was sorry. What they really heard was, it was our fault that Mommy treated us that way. Or, Mommy did it, but it was the right thing to do because of what we did. And, you as a mom, you're thinking, look, we're in a hurry to go somewhere. If I just apologize and leave it at that, then they might not move faster. So I have to apologize, but then follow up with, but what you did was really wrong. So don't get the idea that it was okay to do that, right? Like a million times. So, so we understand that fear. We understand, if I apologize, I'm losing some control. I'm giving up some power there. And we don't want to give that up. So, here's the thing that we have to keep in mind. First of all, when you've done wrong to somebody, then it's not time to think about yourself and what you're losing. It's time to think about what you've taken from that other person that you need to, work to restore. And so, if you've hit your brother or if you've yelled at your kids, then your focus really shouldn't be on what I might lose here. Your focus really should be on, what do I need to do to restore the damage that I've created? And if that means that I need to take a risk, that I might lose something in the process, well, that needs to be on a back burner, because right now my job is to focus on making right what I did. Okay, and then the other thing to remember is that, even if that person started it, right, that's what we hear, he started it, even if that person started it, unfortunately, because you chose to handle it by hitting, or because the mommy chose to handle it by yelling, you really lost an opportunity to speak with that person about the actual issue, right? So your kids are not working quickly, and so you yell at them, and then you're afraid that if you apologize, they won't work quickly. Well, you know what? Even if you talk to them about it right then, they probably won't be able to hear you. They probably won't be able to receive that instruction from you at that moment, because there's been damage in the relationship. And so, if you say, I'm sorry, but you really need to hurry, there's pain there, there's hurt there. Really, the reconciliation needs to happen first. And you know what? You might have to say, from the position of the mommy, you might have to say, guys, that was so wrong. I'm really sorry that I did that. I should not have reacted in that way. I should not have done that. And then if you are late to Bible study, or you're late to, whatever you were going to do, because you have to step back and take a hit based on how you behaved, so be it. The relationships are more important, right? So when you see that from your own perspective as a mommy, it can help you then to sort of apply that to your children, because, children are just small people. They're just brothers and sisters in Christ who are half as tall as you are. And I mean, yes, that there are some, things that are specific to the parent-child relationship, but, essentially they're just little believers who need discipling just like you do. And so when you're working with your child and you're saying, you hit your brother, you need to apologize for doing that. And you can see that he or she is struggling with fear. What if I apologize for hitting my brother and then nothing's done about the car that was taken? And, in that situation, you can encourage them, well, mommy's going to talk to them about the car. Mommy will deal with that. You can trust mommy. You know that mommy always talks to both people or always works with both sides. I've started to say, even though you were going slow, I am sorry I got angry. Yeah. And I've said, and my kids will say, when I apologize and I say, I'm sorry I got angry, that was wrong, then they'll say, sometimes the older ones at least will say, well, we kind of deserved it because we were being slow. And then I say, no, it doesn't matter what you were doing. There's never a good reason for me to react like that. If I see you doing something that isn't right, then I should react based on what you need. I should be saying to myself, you need some instruction or correction in order to be able to, learn to do the right thing. But when I yell, I'm not thinking about you at all. I'm only thinking about me and what's inconvenient to me and what will quickly get the results that I want. So yelling is never a good way for me to handle your struggles because I'm not really focused on you at all. I'm just focused on me. So back to the example with the children, amongst the children, it's okay to acknowledge their fear, right? We don't want to just say, oh, how selfish of you. You've just hit your brother and all you can think about is you're not going to get your car back. No, start by listening. Start by saying, I get it. And you can even say, sometimes mommy has to apologize. And mommy is afraid that, if I say I'm sorry for yelling at you, then you might not be as eager to hurry. And, I have to struggle with that too, but I have to think about what's the right thing to do. And, for our family, I would say, I'm trusting the Lord that if I obey what he calls me to do, if I say, you know what, I did wrong, I need to apologize, and I need to do that no matter what might happen. Even if I apologize and then I somehow lose out, that's more important for me to do what God's called me to do and trust him with the results of what will happen next. Between two children who are in the same family, you also can trust mommy and daddy. Mommy and daddy are not going to let you be treated unjustly. But right now, mommy's calling you to do what you need to do in this circumstance. Now, sometimes they'll have, disputes with, like maybe they're at a play date or a co-op or something, and the child who has wronged them, who they've then turned and, hit or yelled at or whatever, isn't one of your children. And so you don't have control over whether that other child will then turn around and also apologize, or whether, it will be made right, or how that will work out. And so in the home, it's a really good practice, grounds where you can make sure that both people are doing what they ought to be doing, because there will be times in life where you won't have that control and it won't work out that way. But another thing to keep in mind is to remind your children, well, yes, he should not have taken your car. But now that you've hit him, what you've done is so big in his eyes. Like we talk about how, when you hold your thumb up in front of your eye, it's like it blocks out everything else. Well, your hitting is like that thumb. It's so huge in his sight that he's really not going to be able to look at and think about the taking of the car. He's really not going to be able to pay attention to that right now. And so really what you need to do is to go back and make right what you did with the hitting. Now, if he'd taken your car and then you'd talked kindly about it, or you'd come to mommy, then we probably could have a conversation about that right now. But we can't yet because there's this, there's this big thing in the way that he's going to be able to, it's going to block his view of being able to look at what he did. And this is, the Bible talks about taking the log out of your own eye, right? So if he's done wrong and then you did wrong to him, you have to address your own issues first. And, if I was talking to the car snatcher, I would be saying the same thing. I'm sorry that she hit you. That's wrong. She shouldn't have done that. But before you can go and talk to her about the hitting, you need to say that you're sorry for taking her car, right? I love, one time I remember reading a book where a marriage counselor was talking about what he does when he's sitting with a husband and a wife, and they both recognize that they haven't been behaving kindly towards each other, and they both recognize they have changes to make, but they're both afraid to be the first one to make the changes because, what if I change and then the other person stays the same? Then I'll be giving and I won't get anything in return. And what he says to them is, when they say who should go first, who should make the change first, or who should apologize first, he says, well, whichever one of you is more mature, or something like that. Whichever one of you is more godly or more spiritual or something. And so very rarely do two people in conflict both believe that it's the other person who is more mature or more godly or whatever. Usually, there's always an exception. But usually that will help kids to recognize that, the Bible, when the Bible talks about repenting for sin you've done, or, going to talk to somebody about what they've done, it's always, who does it? You. So whoever's being talked to, it's you that needs to make the first move. It's always you, whoever's the you in the conversation. So it's not easy. And like I said, this is by no means the only scenario of what, an insincere apology might look like, but it's just kind of one example of what it might look like on the surface, and then what might be underneath that, and how you could work through that with your kids. So I've got a few other thoughts about kind of other variations on insincere apologies. And I want to come back maybe later this week and talk about some of those. But anyway, I hope that makes sense. And if you're interested in the little mommy thoughts in the morning, go over to facebook.com/HSWO Training Wheels and turn on notifications for that page. And hopefully I'll see some of you there tomorrow morning. So, all right, guys, take care. Have a blessed evening. See you tomorrow at Rock Your Homeschool. Is it just me? Why does my stop broadcast button never work? Okay.